guys, Nick here, and welcome back to another Flash episode review. My thoughts on tonight's episode of Flash titled Versus Zoom. And it's nice to be back after what feels like the fifth break this show has taken. I don't understand the marketing team behind the CW. It's seriously, we had 2 episodes before, then a 3-week break, and we had a 4-week break before that. Makes absolutely no sense. And one of the things that bothered me about tonight's episode that didn't necessarily have to do with the episode itself was that, okay, there's a Supergirl and Flash crossover a number of weeks ago, right? And in that episode, we see Barry with the tachyon device already around his chest, right? And at that point, they hadn't even... It was episode 17 of Flash the week that episode aired, so they hadn't even really talked about the whole tachyon thing until towards the end of that week's episode of Flash. And it's weeks later, and we're just barely getting to the tachyon thing, and in this episode, he disappears for what we assume is when he goes to Supergirl's world, and they make zero mention of it. Absolutely zero mention of it. Really? You make this big crossover event happen, you get all the fans excited, and you don't mention it in any way whatsoever? Really? And the crossover episode with Supergirl was one of my favorite episodes of that show, and seeing Barry fit very well in that world, I loved seeing that. And in this episode, they barely glanced it over. He was gone for, a second. And he was there on that world for, a day or two, maybe. And he's gone, in his Earth for, less than a second or 2 seconds or whatever it was. And you're not even make a single mention of, oh, hey, guys, I was on another world. You guys want to hear about it? You would think Barry would want to talk about it. And he makes, again, zero mention of it. And that's just really... That's just the most frustrating thing about tonight's episode, in my opinion. And the whole... them taking all these stupid breaks. So, with that little rant out of the way, my thoughts on tonight's episode of Flash. This episode was definitely a game-changing kind of episode. We finally see more of Hunter Zolomon behind the mask. We find out that all along, Hunter Zolomon was, in fact, the Jay Garrick that we've come to know. He did put on the facade of Jay Garrick, and that he was never really Jay Garrick. As far as we know, at this point, Jay Garrick doesn't really exist. He still could be that man in the iron mask, and they tease that again in this episode. And I still think that's Jay, because, they're trying to spell it out when they went to Earth 2 initially. But I still... You don't get a guy like Teddy Sears just to have him be a villain like that. I was so excited to hear that he was playing Jay Garrick, because I like that dude as an actor, even though I'd only really seen him in American Horror Story. Because I think he is a really good actor, and I like it. I like his portrayal of the character. I just don't want to think they're wasting the Jay Garrick character as just a facade of Zoom. So that's why I think of the man in the Iron Mask, because he's a little more old, a little more frail. That is the actual Jay Garrick. So in seeing Hunter Zolomon's origin and how it kind of parallels with Barry's, that his dad actually did kill his mom, and he ended up being pretty much orphaned. And seeing how differently their lives ended up when they started out in a really similar kind of way. At the end of the day, did I really care about Zoom's origin? Not really. I didn't really. You could have just mentioned it, what Wells was doing earlier when he was bringing up all the information on Zoom. We didn't really need the flashbacks for Zoom necessarily. It was kind of cool seeing him get his powers, seeing him with the long nappy hair and the Hannibal Lecter mask thing going on. But the flashbacks for Zoom himself was kind of eh. But seeing Barry in this episode, I think in this episode in particular, we've seen Barry more confident than he really has been, especially now that he has the tachyon device, embedded in his suit now, that allows him to go faster and faster and faster. We see him again be more confident in himself, and with his fighting with Zoom in this episode, we see a lot of that confidence, because he's now he's faster than Zoom, and Zoom was the one catching him, racing him, instead of the other way around like it has been pretty much the entire season. And in that fight with Zoom, Barry never showed any sign of weakness, really. He showed confidence even when he was interrogating Zoom in that really great scene when they're talking about what they've been through, how they're able to catch him, all that stuff, and the way they used Zoom's parents as a weakness against him to get him to stop and slow down long enough for the team to catch them temporarily. I like seeing that a lot. Another thing I really liked about this episode was we finally seeing more of the evolution of Cisco's powers, because I feel like Cisco and his journey to becoming Vibe has been a really slow burn ever since they introduced his powers this time last year. But I do like him finally able to start to physically vibe. He started to create the breaches more, so that's pretty cool. And hopefully he has actual vibe powers, like he's able to send the vibrations like Reverb did. But it seems like they're going down that road, which I'm really excited for. And another thing in this episode that really they touched on but didn't go delve too much into was the development of Iris's feelings for Barry. And if you guys have been watching my videos for any period of time, you guys know, I've been wanting Iris and Barry to get together for a really long time. I think their chemistry on screen, Candice Patton and Grant Gustin have really great on-screen chemistry. I like that so much. And I've been wanting Iris to get together with Barry because I feel like the way they're handling Iris on Flash is way better than they handled Laurel on Arrow, because Laurel they ended up sidelining for Felicity just because of fan service. And in this, we see a lot more of them actually sticking to the comics and giving Barry that love interest, hey, on Earth 2, him and Iris are married. In the future, him and Iris are married. And that's starting to have an effect on Iris, and she was going to go on the date with that douchey editor guy, which I never liked from the begin with. And she canceled the date because of her feelings for Barry. They're starting to finally surface. And I like seeing that a lot. And now that we finally know, them getting together is pretty much endgame at this point. So that was really... And then having that scene with Caitlin, because I feel like Caitlin hasn't really had much to do this season other than be a love interest for Jay/Zoom. And I feel like the writers don't know what to do with Caitlin at this point, because she's not Killer Frost, and because she's not a metahuman, there's not a whole lot they can really do with her as a character, because she's just a scientist. And I love Danielle Panabaker and everything. I want there to be more for the character, but what is there to do with the character when you've already stated that she is not Killer Frost? So that's where it becomes a little bit of a dilemma for her as a character. Let's see what else. Another thing I liked about this episode was seeing the development of Joe and Wally's relationship, and then finally Joe has always been more accepting of Wally being a son, but Wally's been a little more distant with the idea of Joe accepting Joe as his father. And in this episode, we find that, when Joe, lets Wally move in, and we see their relationship build, and Wally finally calls him dad. And that was really a step in their relationship that I actually really liked. I teared up a bit. It made me happy. It made me feel like this family is finally starting to come together. We're starting to see a little more, more layers to Wally than we've seen. Because there's been so much going on this season so far that they really haven't had a chance to really delve into Wally as a character too much. And most of us know at some point they're going to make Wally Kid Flash, or some variation of Kid Flash. So the way they're subtly developing him as a character and his relationship with the West family, with Iris and Joe, I want them to eventually start doing more with him and Barry, but I'm liking what they're doing so far. I think it's really touching. I'm liking what they're doing with Wally so far. Let's see what else. Other than that, that's pretty much it. I liked this episode. I liked... Everyone kind of struggled with their inner emotions for the most part, except for Barry, shockingly, because this is the first episode we've seen Barry not really struggle. We see him give up his speed, which I thought was weird, because I thought at the end of the day they're gonna figure out some way of getting rid of, or having Zoom defeated and have Barry keep his speed, but I guess that's not the case, at least in this episode. So we're gonna have to go with another episode of Barry losing his speed. Yay! Because we've already done that 3 times already. So I'm not necessarily looking forward to that next week. And next week's episode really just looks like another filler episode. But this episode, again, it wrapped up pretty nicely. It left on a cliffhanger with Zoom kidnapping Caitlin, Barry not having his speed. So yeah, I think with that being said, that's gonna be it. So if you guys like what you see here, go ahead and hit subscribe below. I do review Flash on Tuesdays, Legend of Tomorrow on Thursdays. Last night was the Supergirl Season 1 finale. So if you guys watched that show, if you guys watched the finale, my review is up on my channel. I do review movies as well. I review Batman vs. Superman, Star Wars, all that kind of stuff all up on my channel. I do trailer reviews and a bunch of other stuff as well if you guys want to check that out. Give this video a thumbs up and let me know what you guys thought of this episode. Did you guys like it as a comeback episode? Did you guys have problems with it? Are you guys looking forward to the rest of the season so far? Let me know in the comment section below. So again, that's going to be it. So until next time, guys, have a good one.